Okay, hello, all my diamond painting friends. I know you're out there somewhere. You're probably asleep. This will go up in the morning, but it is morning anyway. It's, I want to get the exact time. It is 12:49 a.m. Yes, I am diamond painting that next section. I am diamond painting Craftibly Moonlight in the Garden by Bridget Voth. It is a 30 by 24 inch painting. There are 80 colors. There are 9 ABs. And there are 4 LZs, which are crystal/rhinestones with a metallic backing. They're glorious. You probably can't see any here, but you may. They are beautiful. It is now considered Thursday, the 10th, I believe. Yep, I'm right. And this will be update 16, I believe. A whip and chat. I'm going to have to look at it. I can't remember. I just looked at it. Everything else went out of my head, including that. So, yeah, it'll be listed in the title, I'm sure. One of the things I want to mention right off the bat about Craftibly, and whether they watched the video or not, I did inform them, and they were magnificent in their service, their response. Dummy me was looking for the color 341, which is symbol number 7, I believe. And I thought I ran out of it. I looked in this bag. I'll find it. I looked in this bag 3 times. There's not that many colors in here. 3 times I went through this bag. And I could have sworn, there was enough of 341. Needless to say, I could not find it. I didn't have it. I thought, oh great, I've run out of a color. So I contacted Craftibly on Sunday, this past Sunday. It stated in their online information that they would be back with the chat that they have, that they would be back in their offices or back in replying, excuse me, on Tuesday. So I thought, okay, I'll just bypass a few of the 7s I needed, the 341 color in the fountain, and do other things, and hope that when I by the time I started scrolling up here, that the other stones would show up. So they emailed me back early Monday morning. I mean, immediately, it seemed like Monday morning. And you know what their response was to me saying I was missing or had ran out of a color? He said, give us your mailing address and we'll ship them right out. End of conversation. There was no, hey, you got to take a photograph. Show us what you're missing and why. Show us the painting. Proof of purchase, blah, 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 the whole bit. I had to go through and jump hoops. And I'm sorry, Diamond Art, you can yell and scream all you want, but I had to jump through hoops to get drills that were not enough of for the pea kitty that I was doing from Diamond Art. I had to send photographs, video. I had to try and give them proof of purchase, but it was not purchased from their website. It was purchased from their website that was on Amazon, and I had to go through basically hell. And it took 3 weeks. First shipment never arrived. Second shipment finally got here, but it took almost 3 weeks to get one little packet of drills. With Craftibly, it was bang, we'll send them to you. Well, when they contacted me, meanwhile, I thought, I'm going through that packet again, through that little case. I have got to find those drills. I know darn well there should be enough of them. And don't you know that when I went through it a 4th time, guess what was in there? A half a pack of 341, symbol number 7. I was embarrassed. When they did email me that Monday morning and stated that they would ship out immediately, I emailed them back, apologized profusely, thanked them for their very kind and courteous and quick response to my inquiry of missing drills, and told them that I found them, and I apologized for, maybe I should have waited a little longer and just kept digging. But I couldn't find them. And they said no problem, but that if you have any other issues, email and they'll answer immediately. So I just wanted to make a note of that. I mean, it was the craft tech who contacted me, and I will mention his first name, and hopefully he doesn't argue, but his name is Adrian. Thank you, Adrian, for the quick response and the kind response. So that was my little venture into their policy, and their policy is they'll send you the drills, no issue. So now, thank you again, Craftibly. Let's see, lazy retired granny, like I stated in the comment, you're doing this new thing with Mike. Like I said, if you burn out, let me know. I mean, I know you're only doing one painting at a time, but that's a lot of paintings you're trying to do before the end of this month. So, good luck. Okay. Alright, Becky, I saw your video. I am so glad, I am so happy that that one at least mystery painting is turning out to at least be something that looks good. I've seen I don't know how many other kind of mystery paintings that I don't think were as nice or as good as what that one was or is. So that's, and say hello to Fidel. The top half might just be almost like the bottom, like a sky type thing, or it depends on what colors you have left in the symbols up there, I suppose. But I'm glad that it's turning out to look like something that's readable, because sometimes you get those mystery kits and you start painting them and they just look awful. You know, they give you the draw of, hey, you know, do a mystery one, and you do it, and it's impossible to know what it is. So, let's see. Okay, Becky, or no, well, hey Bella, I saw your one video on the kitty that you're going to be painting. I watched most all of it. I think that cat is really pretty. I'm hoping it does turn out to look halfway decent. I mean, who knows? There's a lot of black or a lot of the dark bluish color, whatever is in there. So, you know, good luck in painting, and we'll all have something to do come September. That'll be really nice. Okay, Becky, you made a statement or a comment about, you know, answering a question about, hey, you know, what kind of hobbies have you all done in your lifetime, and how did you get into those hobbies? Okay, I had many hobbies. I don't know if you want to call them hobbies or ventures into something that I wanted to try. You know, I figured I'd never done certain things before. I'm going to give it a shot. So one that I learned a long time ago was a friend of mine, and she was making what she called tea art. T-E-A, tea art. I mean, that's what she called it. I don't know, it probably has a specific name or a different name. And what you do is you take flour and some salt, you mix that together, and then you take your tea, you boil some tea, and you let it cool, and then you take that tea and you mix that into the dough, make a dough, almost like a Play-Doh type thing, and then you start making things. You know, you make any kind of decoration. I ended up making a girl and a boy holding a basket of apples. And you do it just by shaping and forming it. You know, you pick off pieces, you roll them to make them look like apples, and you know, you take little pieces of clove stems and you stick it in for the stems of the apples, and you make the face, and you know, it's almost like working with Play-Doh, you know, or some people with that polymer clay or whatever, and you just make your shape. Then you bake them in the oven. The tea gives it that brownish, nice tone. Depending on how long you steep your tea is what the color of the item will be. And then when it's done and it's cooled, then you shellac them, varnish them, whatever, you know, or spray them down. And my mother, I think, still has one or two of them, or one of them at least, in her house somewhere. And that was back in, oh geez, very late, 69, 70. Okay, that was that hobby. I did it for a while, and then it, you know, how many can you make and give away? It's a, you know, another thing to dust, hang, because you could hang them on your wall. They were flat, you know, on one side, and they turned out cute. You drew their faces on the whole bit. So then, from there, I met another friend as I moved somewhere else, and she was into painting ceramics. And I learned then the difference between, you know, a fired ceramic and a green ceramic. Green means it hasn't been fired yet. So She took me to the one shop she went to all the time to buy her ceramics to paint. And the first two that I picked up was Pinky and Blue Boy statue. And I painted them. My mother still has those sitting, in her dining area on a shelf. And they were good size, about a foot tall, each of them, maybe a little taller. So she had those. I'm looking for a color here. Then the next two that I did, oh gosh, where's that color? Oh, here we go. Anyway, the next two that I did were very tall ones. They were at least 2.5 feet tall, maybe a little taller. And one was a knight, and the other one was another statue. It was a nude, but I can't remember what she was called. And I painted her in the flesh tone, and him, the knight, and they stood on either side of the little fireplace I had in this older home I had. And they would have survived, except I had cats and dogs, and they like to chase each other, and I wasn't quick enough, and the knight fell first. He was de-knighted. It got knocked over. I seen it falling and reached for it, missed it, and it crashed right in front of the fireplace. So that was the end of the night. And a while back, after that, a few days after that, the nude went. So I do not have any of the ceramics I ever painted. The next thing I got into when I moved is macrame. That didn't last very long at all. My daughter would tell you, anything that has a knot in it will drive me through the roof. I will cut it before I untangle any knot. So I couldn't see making knots. So that one came from a dear friend. She was doing macrame. She was doing owls and plant hangers and things. I think I made one plant hanger with the tassel on the bottom, and I don't know if my mother still has that one or not. All I know is that every time I tied a knot, and if it wasn't tied the way it was supposed to be, I was tempted to cut it rather than untie it and start over. So, no. If I get a necklace that has a knot in it, I'll either throw it away or my daughter will grab it and she'll sit there and untangle knots. She loves doing that. I would rather cut it or throw it. Now, I'm done. So that little hobby didn't last. The next hobby I got into was I wanted to crochet because I was pregnant at the time and I wanted to do some baby blankets and baby clothes. So I started reading the books. No internet then, by the way, folks. And I taught myself to crochet. I read it, I practiced it, I studied the pictures, and learned to crochet. And so I thought, well, if I can crochet, why can't I knit? So I taught myself to knit. After a while, I had to kind of break away from that hobby because how many Afghans can you gift a family? How many sweaters? How many scarves, hats, and mittens? I did make a large amount of mittens I think those one were the knitted, I'm not sure. I probably made about 20 of them, 20 pairs. And I took them down to the Salvation Army in the town that I lived in and donated them to the Salvation Army. And they were giving them away then at the coldest weather. So at least there was something, done with them. I still have a collection of yarn, not a lot, after all these years, because that was back in the 80s. And I'm still working on a crocheted, I believe. Yeah, a crocheted Afghan that now is approximately it's big enough to fit probably a queen size bed, of which I do not have. And I haven't worked on it in a year or more, so it's been about 3 years, and it's still in the closet, in the bag, waiting to see if it's ever going to get worked on. And it probably won't. You don't want to work on an Afghan, at least a heavy one, in the summer months. Air conditioning or not, it's too hot to have all that big bulky thing laying across your lap trying to crochet. So after the crocheting, the same friend that got me into the macrame, I believe she started cross stitch. And that would have been, I'm at 21 minutes already, y'all. That would have been around the time we used to show dogs together in obedience. She had 6 or 7 border collies that she trained and showed in obedience, and we'd go to shows and together, and then she started doing cross stitch. And I thought, gee, that looks kind of interesting. How do you do that? What is it? And I had heard about it, and like I said, no internet. And so she showed me what it was. She said, you just put an X. I said, but there's no pattern there. There's nothing. It's just a piece of material. How do you know where to put it? And she explained it, that you count in so far and you count down so far, and the chart is the same way. You count down and in, and there's your first X. I said, okay, that sounds, I can count. And my first mistake was going to, at that time, you had to go to a particular craft shop in order to find, your cross stitch. Couldn't just run into Michael's or anything, and they didn't have, all they had then was either latch hooks, which I had attempted that at one time too, made 2 rugs, and I was done. It was, they only had needlepoint, which I had learned to do, and I had done embroidery, because I did those on pillowcases, and gave a few of those away, with families' names on them and such. Well, I learned to do the cross stitch by buying at the one shop, spent way more than I needed to spend on one piece of material, the floss, the needles, and a few other accessories that I didn't need, which is almost what I did here with diamond art. And I started cross-stitching. 40 years worth. That hobby stayed with me 40 years. Mainly because after I started it, and I started getting really involved in it, I had the work stand, the rollers, everything to hold the craft. And a couple companies contacted me because I had, sent them letters saying, oh, I love your pattern, I love your charts, blah, 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 blah. And I started working for a couple companies, cross-stitching, finishing it up, they'd put it in kits, and then they'd sell them in Michael's then, and in Hobby Lobby. Well, Hobby Lobby wasn't there then. It was Michael's, and it was Joann's, and I'm trying to remember. And then they'd sell them in other shops, bigger shops. They were already kitted up and finished. It would be their model. And they would always take those models to what they call a trunk show. And that way they could show what the model looked like. And then places like Hirschner's or Mary Maxim or any of those would buy the kits if they liked them and sell them through their magazines, through their catalogs. So that's the way that came about. And I stayed with it. Like I said, I stayed with it for 40 years. I still have tons of designs here. I still have tons of floss, cupboards full of floss. And that's how I was able to read these legends, because they're identical. These legends are identical to a cross-stitch legend. They're the same thing. Same type of symbols. Each one of these little squares is the same as putting down an X in floss. I got into this hobby just scrolling around in YouTube land, and Lazy Retired Granny was one of the first I ever watched. And I started watching her, and then started finding a few other little ones here and there. But I watched her and I thought, well, hell, she's doing 30 by 40s, and look how fast she's whipping them up. And I know darn well, cross stitch never took me that long. I could do some of these too. And of course, bought more than I needed. Got the bug, so to speak. And I guess the rest is history. May not be good history, but it's history nonetheless. And I started out with partials. Got my mother started with partials. Got my two nieces diamond painting. Got my two sisters, 2 out of 4, 2 out of the 4 of us. So they're diamond painting. And my daughter diamond paints. And we all know, if you go back in my videos, how I obtained some of these because of her. She did the purchasing. I do the painting, she did the purchasing. So that's my hobbies. There were a few others in between, a little woodworking, let's see, the little woodworking, the latch hooking. I attempted quilting a little bit. That didn't go over so well. That's pretty much, this one here is my favorite. This one I will probably have until I'm no longer here. So, thank you, Retired Granny, for showing your craft, showing your videos, chatting away, and enjoying it. After my partials, I went to large one, my Capricorn through diamond art, my birth symbol. And it was a square. I never thought anything about whether I could do a square or not a square. Any hobbies I've ever done my whole life, I never said the word I can't do it, except for the macrame. That one I would not ever attempt again. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So if you all have your own little story, you know, comment below, make a video, something, and tell us all how you started into diamond painting, or how you started, you know, any of the hobbies you've ever done. So it's 30 minutes. I'm going to get off here. This thing will be, hopefully you guys will see it in the morning. It's now about 1:20. So y'all have a good day. This is the update and painting. This is the section, you know, I'm working on, and it will, you know, I'll give an update tomorrow sometime so you can see how far I've gotten that I'm doing it now. So y'all have a good day. Thank you, Becky, for the suggestion of the question, and thank you, Lazy Retired Granny. Thank you, Craftibly, for coming up with such a beautiful work of art. Thank you, Hoya, for posting. We know you're doing good. And Tita, you keep buying those, you know, packages. I can't watch them all. I'm not a huge fan, I'm sorry, of all the unboxings and things, because it causes me to either buy or wish I could buy. So I don't pay attention. I'm on a no buy. So y'all have a good day, and I'll try and get back with you later. Hugs, Diamond Painting Crazy Lady. I'm out. So long.